Welcome to Sudbury Sports Unbiased, your source for no-spin coverage on the Sudbury Wolves, Sudbury 5, Sudbury Cyclones, and Sudbury Cubs, with Rick and Craig. Hello, sports fans. Craig here. And on this fine Friday morning, we have a special guest back with us, Giuseppe Politi, head coach of the Sudbury Cyclones. Giuseppe, good to have you back on the channel.
Morning.
Yeah, so we're going to do a couple of things here today. We're going to do a little bit of Cyclones talk off the top, and then we're going to talk about Canada's knockout game at the World Cup on Sunday afternoon. So let's start with the Cyclones. Cyclones have been struggling a bit. They're 2-8-1 and we're at the halfway point of the season. Tell me what you've been doing to try to improve the team's fortunes.
Well, we last night had a team meeting, as any team should, at the halfway mark of the season. We're exactly 11 games into a 22-game season. We also had a sports psych professional speak to the team about motivation and resilience and dealing with adversity and all that sort of mental prep stuff. The guys are positive. The games are razor thin. Even looking at our last game against North Toronto, it was a 1-0 loss. Could have been a draw. So we're looking to bounce back in the second half of the season. We have 11 games, 7 of which are at home. And of the 4 away games, 2 of them are against teams that are on the bottom half of the table. So our schedule should be a little bit better on the return leg of the season. But at the end of the day, we got to really work hard together and achieve some results to avoid relegation.
And I see that the next game is against Oakville, who's second in the table. What do you know about them?
Well, we played Oakville early in the season. The result, I don't think, was fair in terms of being reflected the game. We dropped a 4-1 decision on the road. We had some really good chances to start the game, and then, they have one corner kick and a deflection here, a deflection there, squibbles in, and then another corner, and then unfortunately a PK. So things kind of got out of hand and had to make some subs at half. In my opinion, we have a really good chance of getting a result this weekend. They just came off a 3-0 loss, so hopefully they're having a little bit of troubles too, and we'll put our best foot forward and hopefully we can start to turn the tide.
And I noticed on your recent road swing that you rotated the squad at least once. Do you plan to go with a more stable lineup moving forward?
Yeah, we had 7 games. Sorry, we had 3 away games in 7 days on the road. That's a lot on the body and on players from travel and minutes in their legs. So Wednesday at Woodbridge, we certainly rotated the lineup. Now that we're going to be kind of back in a 1 game per week schedule for a few weeks, things should look a little bit more regular. But we will run into some midweek games later in July. So there'll be, again, some rotation. But this is normal in soccer, to keep people healthy, keep people engaged, and always think long term. So
Right.
this weekend should be a little bit more normal. And we're going to go game by game, week by week.
Mid-afternoon start, which is a little bit different for the Cyclones. To let people know, the game was supposed to start originally on the schedule at 7 p.m. It got moved to 3:30. Any reason for that, Giuseppe?
I think it's just to swap and let the girls have the night slot, because Cyclones obviously has 3 teams between the OPL 1 men's, OPL 3, which will be on Sunday for the men's, and then the girls. So I think it's just basically that. I think also later in the month, we were supposed to be at 3:30, and then that got flipped to 7 o'clock. There is some discussions between the organizations. It's possible that the away team wanted a flip. These things happen, but we're still on the same day, and we're hoping that Sudbury Cyclones fans will come out and support us, and we can get the win on Saturday, and then we can watch Canada win on Sunday.
There you go. And just a little plug from my partner, Rick Wyman. Rick will be doing play-by-play. This will be his play-by-play debut for soccer. So I'll be giving Rick a couple of pointers before he takes the microphone in the booth. But that should be a lot of fun on Saturday. Rick making his play-by-play debut, home game for the Cyclones. Hopefully a big crowd, nice day, and best of luck on Saturday. I think you're going to come out with a result, and I'm looking forward to the game.
Yeah, I appreciate it. In fact, it's also the OPL 1 game of the week, so I think it's going to be getting quite a bit of coverage in terms of being streamed live, photography, et cetera, et cetera. So we're hoping everybody can come out and enjoy the experience.
Oh, that's why Rick's a professional. He's going to do that job like nothing, and he'll do a great job. We'll give him the old Simon Brotherton 5-minute primer, but he'll do a professional job as he always does. Giuseppe, let's move on to Canada at the World Cup. Now, I remember we did our preview show, and A guy named Giuseppe said, Canada can do this. They can get out of the group. And guess what? They got out of the group, second place, and they came within a whisker of winning the group. What was your impression of the team through the group stage?
I mean, I think the probabilistic prediction happened that Canada would advance and that they would come in second. Should they or could they have come in first? Yes. I was at the Bosnia game. I thought Canada could have won that game. Thank God they tied. Qatar kind of got out of hand with the two red cards and unfortunately the loss of Ishmael Kone to the broken leg. And then finally they finished the group with the game against Switzerland only needing a draw. You know, it's like Cyclones. It's like you cannot turn off for one moment at the highest levels. Canada had a really poor start to the second half and it costed them. You can't concede within 30 to 40 seconds of the second half starting, and it cost them the group. That being said, any of us would have signed before the tournament for Canada advancing. And then, sure enough, it appears their crossover game, they kind of got lucky because South Africa upset South Korea. So now Canada will play South Africa on Sunday, and I think that's a good matchup. I think it's very doable. There is no reason to believe that Canada cannot advance to the round of 16.
Well, there you go. We're going to talk about that a little bit more moving forward. So we'll keep those questions and answers coming. So here's what I'm going to suggest. It seemed to me that in the Switzerland game, we had a couple of defensive breakdowns. The back four, who's been pretty solid, had a couple of rough moments. How do you guard against that?
It's tough. I mean, Jesse Marsh's style is to a little bit more of a high press, run and gun type thing. Switzerland did well to expose Canada on the two goals. I think that the second goal, the poor goalie Max Crepeau, who made some excellent saves, especially early in the first half, he basically saved the game. I think at about the 11-minute mark, Switzerland was in all alone. He made a fantastic save on that one, but I think he would really want to have the second Swiss goal back. It was a weak one, so we'll see. I think Switzerland is different than South Africa. To be honest, I don't know a heck of a lot about South Africa other than watching the games, but I will say that they played defensively strong. They sat back and they did what they were expected to do. I mean, South Korea is probably overall a better team and probably beat South Africa 8 out of 10 times, but they sat back and literally one counterattack led to the goal and South Africa basically held on. So I expect a match between Canada and South Africa to be similar to what we saw with South Korea, where Canada is going to dictate play and they just can't get caught on the counterattack. That'll be the biggest concern. I also think that if Canada scores first, they'll be in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk about some coaching things. Now, Jesse Marsh went before match day 3 against Switzerland, said, Alfonso Davies is available to play off the bench. So I do my preview show and I say, you know what, folks, I got a hot take for you. Alfonso Davies is going to be available off the bench, and I think he's going to play. Well, as it turned out, Jesse Marsh was lying through his teeth because Alfonso Davies wasn't ready to play, and basically he lied to the public. What do you think about what Jesse Marsh did as far as dealing with the Alfonso Davies situation?
I think it's a little bit of gamesmanship, to be honest. I didn't mind the move. I only thought that if he was going to get in at all, it would be late in the game for, let's say, 20 to 25 minutes, assuming Canada was down and they really wanted to go for it. That being said, it was the smart move not to put him on. He's probably not ready yet. To me, to have him fib or lie to the public is not a big deal. Let's hope that he can come on. I don't think he has 90 minutes, to be honest. I don't think he starts the game against South Africa, but I think he will come in at either the start of the second half or maybe with 30 minutes to go. That being said, if you're a coach like Jesse Marsh or myself, and if we're up 1 or 2-0 against South Africa, I wouldn't put him on at all. Save him for the next round if that's possible. Again, that would be a utopian approach to the game, is to be able to rest Alfonso until he's ready to come back. But everything will be dictated by what he can contribute, which I don't think is a heck of a lot yet, and the scoreline.
And there was another big absence in the Switzerland game, and that was that Stefan Eustaki, who didn't start. And I noticed there was quite a difference in the midfield play, and I think that's where Switzerland swung the game in their favor. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, he I guess he had whatever muscle fatigue, whatever the media was reporting. He did come in the second half, and it obviously made a difference. I expect him to start as long as he's healthy. I was pleasantly surprised with Kone's replacement, Saliba. I thought he did well. I'm pretty sure he assisted on the goal.
He
Honestly,
did.
Canada could have drawn that match. It's just making sure that they are not exposed at critical moments of the game because they were like it's unacceptable to concede 45 seconds in the second half, and the way in which they scored and how open the Swiss goal scorer was. Like he didn't even have to one touch it. He had the opportunity to control it, take a look, and then finish. You can't blame Crepo on the first goal. So we can't be having those mental lapses if Canada wants to advance.
So let's move on to South Africa. You're the coach. You've got Moise Bombito, and he says he's ready to play. Does Bombito come into the starting lineup?
I don't know. I don't know if he's got 90 minutes. I think now that with the card situation washed, the center backs are okay. You know, they risked in the third game picking up a yellow and then being suspended for this match. I would probably stay as is for the start of this match and, give them a little bit more time to build up some fitness. And if Canada, I think Canada can get through this game without him and maybe hopefully use him in the round of 16.
Okay. So you would go with the same back four?
Yes.
Any changes on the wing? I noticed that Tejan Buchanan was a little bit quiet against Switzerland, and seems like we didn't have a lot of great wing play against the Swiss.
Yeah, I mean, again, like there's more than just we don't know what his fitness is like, et cetera. I would probably stick with him. I don't mind Liam Miller coming on. He provided something extra, a little bit more dynamic. I'm interested to see what they do up top. Like I don't think Promise David can do 90. He's probably going to be a sub with 30 minutes to go if needed. The safest thing is probably just to go with David and Laren again up top.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do, Giuseppe. I think I would go with those two. They're the veterans. They've had World Cup experience, and that'd be the tandem I would start. But I'll tell you, the way Promise David has been going off the bench, I would have no hesitation moving him in for either one of the strikers if Jesse March doesn't feel that the strikers are having a good day.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, even with Cyclones and any other team, if you have an abundance of strikers, it's you can play the first 45 minutes. You got two fresh strikers, and then you can make some subs in the second half, and to keep it fresh because the center backs of the opponent can be starting to get fatigued and not be on top of their game. Whereas you bring someone on totally fresh, you could take advantage of that extra step, the speed, etc. We'll see what happens. Like I said, if Canada can get ahead, is going to be really key for them again in this match because I see South Africa doing the same thing. If they were to score a goal, I could see them bunkering and they will sit back, park the bus, two buses in front of the net. And it'll be hard to break down. They certainly have a very good team spirit. They've achieved something they've never achieved. They play for each other. They're gonna try to win this. Anything for either team is bonus right now. But I still sense that the pressure's on Canada. Canada should be winning this game. They can be winning this game. And with all due respect to South Africa, Canada is not playing Argentina this game. Canada is not playing Spain. It's not France. This is a team that Canada can beat and then look at the round of 16. I don't really want to talk about the round of 16 yet because we're not there yet, but Canada can win this game.
We have to get there. One thing I was going to ask you was, how do you feel Canada will come out? Do you think that Canada will have the ball, or do you think that they'll let the South Africans get possession? Because in the Swiss game, the Swiss did dominate possession.
Yeah, I don't think Canada will concede possession. I think that they're going to go after it. It's Jesse's style to do so, and that's what I expect. I don't think we're going to be sitting back. Like I said, it's all based on the opponent. There were some good moments for Canada. They had the ball, especially in the second half. It was a weird game. I thought Canada started well against Switzerland and then faded, and then they came back, and it was kind of up and down. And then obviously when you're down 2-1 and pressing for the goal, which they almost had. I mean, they could have drawn that game, but it could be a blessing in disguise, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. So South Africa, they've got a couple of dangerous strikers. So I think they do have some goal scoring threats. But Giuseppe, I looked at these teams. I've watched South Africa. I've watched Canada. I think Canada has the superior talent and the superior players.
Exactly. I mean, overall, on paper, the pressure is on Canada. I think South Africa is, they've achieved what they needed to achieve or set out to achieve. Qualifying was a big thing for them. Advancing was a big thing for them, but the pressure I think is on Canada to deliver a result, and I think they can.
I think another thing that Canada got a huge break on is that they're not playing Korea. because in Los Angeles, there is a huge Korean population. That would have been an away game for us. And we play a lot of games in hostile environments, but I think playing South Africa in Los Angeles will be a real break for this team.
Yeah, I think, I've been watching some snippets online of Jesse Marsh's press conferences, and he was kind of saying that it's great for Canada to have, let's say, kept home field advantage, but that also brings the burden and the headaches of being at home and, the people in the hotel and all that sort of stuff, the extra pressure, it mounts on players too. So there's pros, cons with everything. And, I was a little disappointed when Canada wasn't able to draw Switzerland, but to be honest, it all worked out because I think South Africa is a better matchup for Canada. South Korea, like I said, in my opinion, wins against South Africa 8 out of 10 times. 80% of the time, so that South Korea is going to find a way. But lucky for South Africa, they scored the one goal and sat back and defended like a wall. So Canada can do this against South Africa and just got to make sure they don't get caught on the counter. And when they get chances, I thought Kyle Larin had some bigger chances than he thought he had um, in the game. Jonathan David got a little bit more clinical. I'm really hoping those guys can step up when they have an opportunity because they will have
I
them.
think they will as well. I think that Canada will score some goals in this game. I really do. I think that the South African defense is not that good. And I think that we can expose them either with flank play with the wingers or we can get the ball into the strikers. And I think that Larin and David could do some magic in the box.
Yeah, like I said, there was chances last game. I think Canada will be on the front foot. It's just let's hope for everybody's sake that no critical errors, no mental lapses, because at this level the margins are thin and you can't make those mistakes. If we're going to lose, it better be a world class goal or really unlucky because we get knocked out on penalties or whatever the case is. But I just don't want to see Canada go out on something silly. And if Canada, like I said, they play to their potential, this is not Canada versus a top four world team. You're not playing the Argentinas, the Spains, the Frances, England, Brazil. This is a round of 32 matchup against a middle of the way type team. And honestly, Canada should win and advance.
So put on your prediction hat. Give me your fearless prediction. Who wins and by what score?
I predict Canada. I'll be cheering for Canada and let's say a 2-1 victory.
Well, I didn't talk to you about that before we went on, and that would have been my exact thoughts. I think Canada will score 2 goals. I think South Africa will get one, but I see Canada prevailing in this game 2-1, and I don't think it's going to need extra time, Giuseppe.
I hope not. I hope Canada can go up one. I hope maybe in the first half, go into the interval, either 1 or 2 up. Maybe South Africa pulls one back. I could also see 2-0, but let's just not be too arrogant and let's say 2-1 Canada and get us into the round of 16 and keep the dream alive. There's World Cup fever around. From people in the community to the soccer fields and everywhere in between in the workplace, everybody's talking about it. This is so good for Canada.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How do you feel about the enthusiasm that Canada is showing for the World Cup? Because in my view, and I talked to Rick about this on our podcast last week, the enthusiasm shown has been just way more than I expected.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, Canada is not just the host and they're not just competing, they're succeeding. So like there's a lot of elements going on there. It's not you're not just a participation medal and then you go home. So it's excellent. It's good for people to see Canada succeed and hopefully that, increases people engagement with soccer, so on and so forth. To be honest, I want every team that's hosting with, everybody has an opinion on the US and politics and all that, but I would love to see Canada, US and Mexico go far in the tournament because it shows that, we can actually do soccer and soccer well in this part of the world. It's not always a European and a South American sport. So I hope Canada does well and they have everything ready. They have all the tools necessary. They don't need a quote unquote miracle. They're not playing Messi in the next game. They're playing South Africa, and this is doable.
And that's the other thing I was going to mention, and I appreciate you bringing up the point. CONCACAF has done very well in this tournament, so I think this validates our North American soccer. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I could look at if it would have went the other way. If all teams would have crashed out, we would have just continued, being the joke of the world. I will say that I've gone to Europe to do my coaching licenses and stuff like that, and then once they find out that I actually come from Canada, they're quite surprised. They're like, "Oh, we didn't expect you to be able to deliver sessions like this or to understand the game like this, so on and so forth." On a world scale, Canada is not viewed as a soccer nation. Similar. I did coaching school in the U.S. and brought my papers across to Europe. And my point is that if Canada, the U.S., and Mexico or anybody from CONCACAF does well, it gives more legitimacy to what we're trying to do here in this part of the world. And like I said, I'm cheering for all of them. I know the U.S. lost last night, but the game really didn't mean much. I would love to see all three of those teams go far in the tournament.
Yeah, I think it's realistic that all three of the teams could make the final 16, and with any luck, maybe a quarterfinalist. That would be outstanding for the Confederation.
Totally agreed.
So, Giuseppe, I want to thank you for coming on this morning, and we've got a few more knockout games to predict, and we're going to do those later on. We had to do this one because Sunday is the day, 3 o'clock, in case anybody wants to know. Make sure you're tuned in. And I'm sure TSN will have a really long pregame show too. And, I've even liking those 3-hour pregame shows. They're pretty good. But here's what I will say, folks. Get on board because Canada needs you. Canada needs you cheering. And if you can get to a party, if you can get to a get together, a watch along or whatever, make sure you're out there. Show your support, show your colors, and go Canada, go. Thanks, Giuseppe. I appreciate your time this morning.
Go Canada.
You got it.